Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening from, wherever you're watching from. I'd like to say hello, Molo, and I want to say welcome to all of our new people.
Yeah.
You know, if you're new, it's your first time joining, would you let us know? Would you just maybe let us know that you're new so that we can have someone say hello to you and just personally message you as well?
Yeah, we got hosts in the chat groups on YouTube and on our channels. And so make sure you connect if you want to find out more, if you have questions or you need prayer. Just connect with our team. We want to connect with you. But as Nico said, welcome to Grace Family Church, to our digital campus. We're so glad that you're here. Also, one way to stay connected is also to join our WhatsApp group.
Yep.
So if you're a WhatsApp user, then you can the number will be on the screen. Just send a message to that number and we'll add you to our broadcast list. It's not a chat, so don't worry, it's not another WhatsApp group to chat with. It's simply just a one-way communication. We just keep you up to date with what's happening around the campus. We post the videos and things that come out on Sunday so that you always stay in the loop. And also it's a great tool to be able to share with people through WhatsApp. So join that group when you get a chance.
Indeed, and listen, we are in week 3 of a series we're calling Hope Has a Name, right? And we're just going through the statements of Jesus that are found in John. And this week, we've got Wayne who's going to be sharing the word with us. So we're encouraged, we're ready for that. Why don't you take a look?
Years ago, I visited a family in their home in Gainsford Avenue in Glen Ashley, and I don't remember much about the visit. I do remember we were trying to resolve some conflict, and it wasn't going so well. What I do remember is that as I was showing myself out, and it seems I had to show myself out, I was lost in thought. I was admiring the view, and as I did that, I walked the closed sliding door almost off its hinges. I remember once I'd recovered from the shock, I noticed the imprint of my eyebrows, my nose, my chin, my chest, my knees on the glass door. I thought it was open, and it wasn't. I wonder if anyone can relate, not just physically, but figuratively too. Closed doors that have presented insurmountable obstacles to your life, robbed you of opportunity, stopped you right in your tracks. Now, there was a man who had so many closed doors in his life, so many obstacles in his way, and he discovered that hope has a name. John records in profound detail the story of this man's life. We find it in John chapter 9. He was born blind. Well, there's a closed door. The questions swirling around him were, what had he done wrong? Or what had his parents done wrong for him to deserve this affliction of never seeing? Well, Jesus says neither of these things are real. He spits on the ground, Jesus does, makes some mud, puts the mud on the eyes of the blind man, and sends him to wash in the pool of Siloam. Well, he went, he washed, and he came home seeing. The people who could see don't recognize him. They can see, but they don't recognize this man, and they suggest that he just looks like the blind man who used to beg in that one place always. But the blind man insists. He says, I'm the man. And they ask him, how then were your eyes opened? And he says, well, the man they called Jesus made some mud, put it on my eyes, told me to go and wash in the pool of Siloam, and I washed. I went and I washed, and I can see. Well, they say to him, where is this man? He says, I don't know. I don't know where he is. Here is a man with a shut door in front of him. Once he could not see through, and then he meets Jesus, and the door opens. He can see. He can dream. He can admire the view. He can imagine his life out ahead. And then the door closes again, quite amazingly. Because the crowd bring the man to the Pharisees, the religious leaders, my equivalent in a sense, and they say, you see, this miraculous healing has taken place on the Sabbath. So that's why they're bringing him to the lawmakers and the Pharisees. And healing someone on the Sabbath was against the law. So he tells them that Jesus put mud on his eyes, he washed, and now he could see. And they say this Jesus cannot be from God because he doesn't keep the laws of God, the Sabbath. Because to mix the mud and to do all that stuff is like work on the day of rest. Others say, But how can a sinner do such a miraculous thing as open a blind man's eyes? And so they turn to the blind man a bit confused and they say, what do you think of this Jesus? And he says, I think he's a prophet. They don't believe he was born blind, and they interrogate his parents. I mean, this is a story that the scriptures talk about in detail. His parents are asked, is this your son? They say, he's our son. Is he the one you say was born blind? And they say, he was born blind. Then they say to this man's parents, how is it that he can now see? Well, they're under the threat of being chucked out of the synagogue, another door closed, say he is our son, he was born blind, but how he can see, ask him. He's an adult. And they kind of don't want to get themselves in trouble. So they call the blind man again and say, we know this Jesus is a sinner. How did he open your eyes? And he says, I don't know if he's a sinner or not. In a way, he said, I don't know much about this Jesus. All I know is that I was blind, but now I see. And by the way, he says to these lawmakers, we know that God doesn't listen to sinners. And we also know that only God can open the eyes of a man born blind. And as a result of this beautiful logic, they throw him out of the synagogue and they slam the door shut. And he's on the outside looking in. He was born blind, deemed a sinner, beyond the love and embrace of God. His eyes are opened. Hope has a name. He finds that name in Jesus. The door is opened. He has hope and a future. And then he is cast out of the temple. The door is shut on God, and the door is shut on community. He's on the outside looking in. It's like he had walked into the sliding door. He thought it was open, bang, and it wasn't. And he's bruised and he's battered. I love how John goes on. Jesus heard that he had been thrown out and finds him. He asked the man, do you believe in the Son of Man? Who is he? The man responds. I love this man's ignorance. He just doesn't know anything. Who is he? The man responds. Tell me so that I can believe in him. And Jesus says to him, he is the one speaking to you now. And the man responds with, I believe. Hope has a name. What John records Jesus saying next is as though he is speaking to one man. It's like Jesus is speaking to this man who had the door of the synagogue community and God closed on him. He speaks to the excommunicated man so that he might be encouraged. And yet, as Jesus speaks for the benefit of one, he would have us all hear. And so in a way, profoundly, Jesus speaks to you and he speaks to me. Hope as a name. And this is what Jesus says. John, further on in John, I am the door. I am the door. Let's read. Then Jesus said to them again, most assuredly I say to you, I am the door of the sheep. All who ever come before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them. I am the door. If anyone enters by me, he will be saved, and he will go in, and he will go out, and he will find pasture. And in a sense, referencing these Pharisees that had shut the door on the man, he says, the thief does not come except to steal and to kill and to destroy. But I have come that they may have life and they may have it more abundantly. Profound and beautiful words. So one of my favorite scriptures, actually. Now, to fully understand the beauty and the power of this image of Jesus as a door, let me take you to the hillside beyond the village. At night, the sheep would be collected into sheepfolds out on the hills. These hillside sheepfolds were open spaces enclosed by a wall, and in them were an opening through which the sheep would come in and the sheep would go out. There was no door of any kind, but at night, the shepherd himself lay across the opening and the entrance. No sheep could go out or come in except over his body. In the most literal sense, the shepherd was the door. There was no access to the sheepfold except through him. I am the door, says Jesus. Not an invisible door against which you will constantly bump and bruise yourself. Not a religious barrier keeping you out, a set of rules that are unattainable. Not a set of impossible rules. In fact, if anyone, Jesus says, enters by me, he or she will be saved and will go in and out and find pasture. The thief does not come except to steal and kill and destroy. But I have come that they may have life and that they may have it more abundantly. I am the door. I am the door, says Jesus, to three things: salvation, to freedom, and to life. Not just life, but abundant life. So first, I'm the door to salvation, says Jesus. Before Jesus, men and women could think of God at best as a stranger and at worst as an enemy. As a blind man, he's excluded from the community and God because he is considered a sinner or the product of a sinner. As a healed man, now able to see his sin overcome or negated, he is excluded because the God who healed him broke his own rules and healed him on the Sabbath. So he's excluded from the community and God. He's locked out of the temple. I love this man's story. He says, I don't know where this Jesus is. I don't know what kind of a man he is. I don't know how he restored my sight. I don't know how he saved me from my lot. But this I know. I was blind, but now I see. When he's confronted with Jesus, whom he does not recognize, he responds with, I believe. And he hears Jesus say, I am the door. Through me, you will find your healing and you'll be saved. The door is not shut, the door is open and you can enter. I wonder where you are in the story of your life, because I couldn't help remembering mine. I grew up as the son of a Methodist minister, and my parents modeled a life of sacrifice and service. They got it right and wrong, and as pastors and as parents, but they lived free, breathing in and out the grace and the love of God. My mom still lives free to this day. But it became apparent to me over time that there was an expectation of me, a glass door, if you like, that I kept walking into. It was an expectation that was greater than I could attain. No matter what I achieved or attained, more was expected of me. And if I failed, that failure was magnified. I mean, I remember moments when if I and 5 of my friends messed up and got it wrong, it would be said before us all, from you 4 boys we expected this, but from you, the pastor's son, from you we expected more. It's okay for them, but not for you. I suffered from what I've called the hardening of the authorities. You know, you ought to have done this, you ought to have been better, you ought to have done better, you ought to have done it differently, you ought to have. And I don't know about you, but even as I say it now, it feels like a weight beyond. Even now as a pastor, I get some hardening of the authorities. You know, you ought to have done. You call yourself a pastor. It didn't help that at every youth gathering, I would hear for 45 minutes how bad I was. For 5 minutes how good God was, despite me. And at most gatherings, I would be compelled, it seemed, to give my life to Jesus. Again, not believing. At one point I said to my dad, I gave my life to Jesus last night, and he said, what, again? And in a way, that was his gift to me, because at that moment, it was like my seeing moment, was my blind man moment before Jesus, who asked, do you believe? It's like I could say at that point, enough. Here is Jesus, the door, through which I meet God as a loving Father who delights in me. God is a Father who knows me and loves me still. A God who longs for me to come home and welcomes me in. Here is Jesus, the door, through which I am saved and being saved, because we are all a work in progress, aren't we? I imagine if the blind man had said to Jesus, I don't believe, he would not have been struck blind again. He was being invited to see more than just the beauty of the world around him, but to look through the door and to see God, a God who loved him, God who forgave him, a God who dealt with his past, a God who embraced him, a God who saved him. And hey, as you reflect on your story and your life, which side of the door do you stand? I'm not sure what glass doors you've clattered into, what religious doors you've been battered by, what hurt and pain you carry, what failure you quietly endure as you live each day, what failure of others have caused you pain and left you bruised and battered. Jesus says to one man, and because he's speaking to one man, the significance of those words for you and me are heightened. I am the door. Enter through me and you'll be saved. And we enter by saying with the blind man, I believe. I don't understand all things, but I believe. And I receive your love and your grace, God. I believe. I believe. Maybe today you would be wanting to just say that. Enough. Enough. I believe and I wish to follow. Second, Jesus says, I'm the door to freedom. He says, anyone who enters through me will be saved and will go in and out and find pasture. Jesus uses a well-known Hebrew phrase. To be able to come and go without being harmed or molested was the Jewish way of describing a life that is absolutely secure, absolutely safe, and absolutely free. If a man and a woman could go in and out without fear, then the country was at peace. The forces of law and order were supreme, and they enjoyed a perfect security and a freedom. Even as I say this, the Holy Land, Israel, is in a place where freedom is so limited right now. Jesus' invitation is to a people to enter through him and be able to move freely. It's an invitation to freedom. A leader of a country is to be one who can lead them out and bring them in. There's this idea of freedom. The person who is said to be obedient to God, he or she is blessed when they come in and when they come out. We read that in the book of Deuteronomy. The psalmist explains with certainty that God will keep him in his going out and in his coming in. This is a beautiful freedom. In the day-to-day coming and going of my life and your life, God is there. It's a freedom. It's a freedom in a pretty hostile and dangerous world. You know, for sheep beyond the pen, danger lurked. There was the weather, there was the terrain, which was at times harsh with big cliffs they could fall off. There were predators that were on the hunt for some tender lamb, right? In their going in and in their going out, they would be free. In their going, there was God, and it was a freeing way to live, knowing that wherever you are going, God is already there. I've loved the words of Jesus to Mary outside the empty tomb. He says, go and tell my brothers to go to Jerusalem. There they will see me. It's like God's ahead of them. And when they get to Jerusalem, they simply need to look for what he's doing. It's almost an invitation. Walk into your future and expect to see God. Walk into Monday, God's already there. Whatever worry, anxiety you have, you can be free of it because God's already there. Walk into Tuesday, Wednesday, that meeting, that conflict, that difficult thing, that celebration. Because wherever you go, God is there. It's also, in a sense, a freedom from ourselves. This analogy of the door and the sheep breaks down for me a little. You know, sheep are incredibly stupid animals. They would nibble themselves lost, from one tuft of grass to another tuft of grass. And when they look up, they don't know where they are and they don't know how to get home. They would charge over a ravine blindly altogether and then be stuck. They were prone, and I come to understand this, to throw themselves on their own backs from time to time out of alarm for no apparent reason, unable to right themselves and therefore find their way home. Can you imagine it? Now perhaps you can relate. You have short-sightedly nibbled your way from one temptation to another and you find yourself lost. You find yourself in a seemingly inescapable ravine, and you have simply done something incredibly foolish. I'm the door, says Jesus. You will come and go, and you will find pasture. I will be with you in your most stupidest places. There will always be a way, a door to walk through, because hope has a name. I am the door. You're coming and you're going, says Jesus. It's an invitation to freedom, to live lightly and freely. Lastly, Jesus says, I'm the door, and I have come that they, you and me, may have life, and that they may have life more abundantly. You see, Jesus is the door to a fulfilled, meaningful, joy-filled, and purpose-filled life. If I had to ask you what robs your life of joy, meaning, and purpose, how would you answer? I'd love for us to have a discussion, but I imagine your answer would center around the quality of your relationships. When those who are dying are asked what they regret, when their lives are coming to an end, what did they regret? They say they regret the time lost with family and with friends, the time squandered through conflict and through hurt, the time lost while they chased after everything else. To live abundantly seems to be loved, and to know you're loved, and to love. It's why the central instruction of Jesus, and we talk of this often, is to love as He has loved us, to love completely, to love sacrificially, to love gracefully. So loved and loving, we live abundantly now and forever. What's the quality of your relationships like? Can Jesus, the door, invite you to walk through and to invest in those relationships, fix what is wrong, take the humble road, and waste no time? I have come that they may have life, and life in all its fullness, life in abundance. I wish I could make this a little more complicated and sound a little more clever, but it seems so simple. Hope has a name. We all stand in front of an open door, not a glass door that we're walking into and can't see. And we have an invitation from Jesus. He says, I'm the door. Enter through me, find healing and salvation. Enter through me and find freedom as you come and as you go. Live lightly. Enter through me and find abundant life, meaning and purpose and joy. And we enter by saying with a man born blind, I believe. I might not understand all things, but I believe. Let's pray together. You may be saying it's time. You may be saying it's enough. And today all you want to say is, Lord, Jesus, you are hope with a name. And I wish to simply take up your invitation to salvation and healing, to freedom, and to life in abundance. And so I say with a blind man, I believe. And I'm going to walk through the door, and you will lead me, and you will guide me. Deal with my past, be present in my today, and show me your plan for my future. You are the door, and you invite us to walk through it. If these are words that you'd want to pray, then pray them now. And let's see what God does with you and with us in the week to come. God bless you. Have a great Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or whenever you're watching this. Amen.
Generations falling down in worship to sing the song of ages to the Lamb. And all have gone before us, and all who will believe will sing the song of ages
Well, once again, thank you for joining us. I hope that message was inspiring and helpful for you. I hope you enjoyed the worship, for those of you who stuck around to the very end. And just a reminder again, we've got lots of other worship songs. You can go check out our playlist. And if you want to continue to worship, then feel free to do that through our YouTube channel. You can find it, just search Grace Family Church. We are going to continue to worship through our giving, and this is an expression. We don't just give, we don't just worship through our singing. We worship with our time, our talent, and our treasure. And this is an opportunity for us to do that. And as I was preparing for that, I just came across this verse in 2 Corinthians 9, verse 8, but I'm reading to you from the Message version because I think it just gives us fresh language. He says this: God can pour on the blessings in astonishing ways so that you're ready for anything and everything. More than just ready to do what needs to be done. I love that. It's more than just getting by. It's actually above that. As one psalmist puts it, he throws caution to the winds, giving to the needy in reckless abandon. His right living, right giving ways never run out and never wear out. This most generous God who gives seeds to the farmer that becomes bread for your meals is more than extravagant with you. He gives you something you can then give away, isn't it? That's the call, that we are blessed so that we can be a blessing, which grows into full-formed lives, robust in God, wealthy in every way, so that you can be generous in every way, producing with us great praise to God. And I love that idea. When we understand God's generosity towards us, it makes us generous to those around us. And when we're generous to those around us, they actually don't give us glory, they point to the Father and give Him glory. And so when you give, you're actually giving glory to God. And so thank you to everyone who contributes, whether it's, a little or a lot, whether it's online or however you do that. We're just so grateful that you are joining us in the mission that we've been called to. So,
well, thank you very much for leading us in that time, Tom. And listen, if you guys want to maybe connect and you want to get to know who we are, you've got questions, we want to encourage you to do that. We want to encourage you to get stuck in. We've got an email that you can email digital@grace.org.za, and we'll get in touch with you with any questions, right? Because here's the thing, is that we don't want you to just feel like this is a Sunday thing or only on the day that you watch it. We want you to be a part of the church. We want you to be part of the family. So why don't you do that? Send us an email and we'll get in touch with you. And then just want to say, if you enjoyed this message, like it. It's just a way of us knowing that you're receiving the content and you are liking it, but maybe you feel like this is also relatable for someone else. You feel like you can share this to someone because it could probably touch them where they are right now. Would you share it? Right? Literally click the share button, and last but not least, subscribe so that you can be reminded every week whenever we post something, you're the first person to know, right? It comes up on your notification because we want you to be updated. So when you do those things, you like, share, subscribe, get the word out there, and we'll just keep doing what we do as well.
Awesome, and it's great to see our subscription base just growing and growing every week. So thank you guys for that. Otherwise, that's it from us. I hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll see you next time.
Cheers, guys.